There is a reason they call this the $3 million asset, and there is a reason why this 1969 ZL-1 command unit is worth more than its weight in actual gold. Back in the late 60s, General Motors put a strict ban on factory racing. The men in the boardroom wanted safe, boring, obedient cars. But deep inside the Chevrolet skunkworks, a team of rogue engineers decided to commit treason against their own bosses. They built a weapon, an all-aluminum, aerospace-grade power plant hidden inside a fiberglass shell. It was so extreme and so expensive that it had to be sold in absolute secrecy using a shadow network of hidden order codes. Officially, this machine does not exist. Only 2 of these command units ever made it out of the factory alive, but if this was just another fast car, why did the top brass try so hard to bury it? What were they so afraid of? February 1963. The order came down from the highest echelon, cold, clinical, absolute. The directive, stamped with the weight of General Motors' corporate authority, declared that effective immediately. All General Motors divisions are prohibited from direct factory participation in racing, or the sale of engines or components specifically designed for racing purposes. No division personnel will engage in any racing activity, nor will factory support be provided to racing teams. Violation of this policy will result in immediate termination. This was not a suggestion. This was a kill order, delivered to every division, every engineering cell, every man who ever dreamed of building something that could outrun the law of physics. The suits in the boardroom, terrified of antitrust investigations and lawsuits, made their move. They cited mounting insurance claims and congressional scrutiny. The press releases talked about public safety. The real message was clear. Innovation would be sacrificed for plausible deniability. No more factory-backed racing. No more sanctioned development of engines with ballistic intent. The phrase, "no direct factory participation," became gospel, enforced with threats of career execution. The American Manufacturers Association had started the pressure years earlier, but in 1963 General Motors made it doctrine. Ed Cole's signature on that memo was a shot fired not at Ford or Chrysler, but at his own engineers. The Corvette's racing program was dead. The Super Duty Pontiacs were dead. The 427 mystery motor was buried. Suits and lawyers declared war on horsepower, and every man in the skunkworks understood the new rules. Get caught, and you are finished. In the archives, the directive sits like a classified warning label, its language stripped of mercy. It did not just change the rules, it erased them. From that moment, every act of speed became an act of treason. And for the men who bled antifreeze and aluminum, the only path forward was underground. The ZL-1 would be born not in celebration, but in defiance. A weapon forged beneath the radar of corporate cowardice. Every man in the skunkworks understood the price of disobedience. One unsigned memo, circulated in the engineering warren after hours, spelled it out with the precision of a firing order. Any employee found aiding in the development or distribution of racing components will be subject to immediate dismissal. No appeals, no transfers. The message was clear. This was not a game. This was a career-ending threat, delivered with the same finality as a court-martial. There's a story that gets whispered at the end of the line, long after the suits have gone home. An engineer, call him redacted because his name never made it into the official history, stood in the shadow of the Tonawanda engine plant, hands black with graphite and aluminum dust. He'd spent months refining an all-aluminum block, pouring his life into a power plant that could outrun anything the competition could field. One night, a supervisor from the front office cornered him by the loading dock. The warning was simple: walk away from the project or walk out for good. He didn't walk. He doubled down, knowing full well that if the wrong person found the wrong set of blueprints, his pension, his reputation, and his future would be erased with a single phone call. GM's ban didn't just cut off funding or put projects on ice. It turned every act of high-performance engineering into a covert operation. Part support for anything with racing intent vanished overnight. No more special castings, no more experimental heads, no more backdoor shipments to favored teams. If you needed a new cam profile or a forged crank, you had to beg, borrow, or smuggle it out under a pile of paperwork marked obsolete. A historian once called it career suicide by horsepower. For the men on the inside, it was something closer to duty, a kind of mechanical patriotism. Every forbidden casting, every late-night dyno run, every erased serial number was a shot fired in a silent war. The ZL-1 wasn't just a machine. It was a declaration that American engineering would not be neutered by corporate cowardice. The stakes were personal, the risks absolute. And for those willing to defy the edict, the only way forward was underground, one classified engine at a time. Aluminum was never meant for street duty, not in 1969, not at this scale. Every suit at headquarters knew it. You want black budget risk? Try pouring molten 356 T6M alloy, a formula borrowed from the aerospace playbook, into a block meant to survive full-throttle artillery fire. That's what the skunkworks demanded. The result? A 427 cubic inch command unit, stripped of 100 pounds of dead weight, its core forged for combat, not compliance. The foundry floor became a classified zone. The wrong pour temperature, a single grain of contamination, scrap. 1 in 5 castings, sometimes more, went straight to the graveyard. Every failed block burned through more than just funding, it risked exposing the whole operation. The accountants kept their distance. Cost sheets vanished into the night. No iron block could match the ZL-1's mass reduction. The 356 T6M alloy, heat-treated and tempered like a bomber's fuselage, delivered both strength and a thermal signature that let the engine run harder, longer, under pressures that would have shattered standard-issue hardware. Foundry engineers, names redacted, faces blurred in the archives, worked after hours, perfecting the core geometry, chasing porosity, machining every surface to military tolerances. Each block that survived inspection was a victory against the bean counters. Every casting was an act of industrial sabotage, one more warhead ready for deployment if only the chain of command could be trusted to keep its mouth shut. The ZL-1's architecture demanded secrecy because every ounce of aluminum poured was a line crossed, a rule broken, a shot fired in a silent war for American supremacy. Forget the block for a moment. Anyone can pour molten alloy and pray for a survivor. The true command unit is defined by its internal architecture, the kind of architecture that turns a street machine into a classified asset. The ZL-1's support systems were not cribbed from showroom stock. They were lifted straight from the playbook of battlefield logistics. First, the dry sump oiling system, a system so overbuilt it could keep bearings alive at redline while pulling a sustained 1.2 lateral G forces. No street engine needed it, but a weapon built for maximum sustained output demands ordnance-grade lubrication. You want to survive a dogfight at 7,000 revolutions per minute? You need a dry sump, period. Then there is the gear drive camshaft. No rubber, no chains, no slack, just straight-cut cogs transmitting rotational force with the precision of a rack and pinion artillery loader. The suits would have called it overkill. The skunkworks called it insurance. Cam timing never drifted, not at 8,000 revolutions per minute, not after 100 hours of full-load torture. This was a system built for zero margin of error because a single degree out of phase could mean catastrophic failure at ballistic speeds. Every subsystem, from the forged steel crank to the open chamber heads, was spec'd for mechanical violence. The machining cells at Tonawanda operated like a secure weapons lab, with restricted access and redacted paperwork. Only the cleared personnel got near the ZL-1's rotating assembly. There were no shortcuts. Every oil passage, every bearing surface, every fastener was overbuilt, over-tested, and signed off like a classified launch order. The result? An engine that could take a full-throttle assault and come back for more, ready to prove its worth on the dyno, the only battlefield that mattered. Proof of tactical supremacy does not come from rumors or glossy brochures. It is written in the raw data, stamped on factory dyno sheets, and burned into the microstructure of the block itself. The ZL-1 was officially rated at 430 brake horsepower, but that number was corporate camouflage. Behind secure doors at Tonawanda, The real output clocked in between 560 and 585 brake horsepower. These were not marketing numbers. These were battlefield figures recorded on dyno curves that plotted the ZL-1's torque and power like the trajectory of an artillery shell. At 5,200 revolutions per minute, the curve did not flatten. It climbed, holding above 550 brake horsepower, well past the point where iron block rivals faded into thermal overload. Under the microscope, the evidence is even harder to deny. Metallurgical analysis, XRF scans, and micrography confirmed the block was 356 T6 aluminum alloy, heat-treated to aerospace standards. Grain boundaries were tight, porosity under 1%, yield strength north of 40,000 pounds per square inch. This was not automotive-grade casting. This was ordnance, material you would trust in a bomber or a missile casing, not a street car. Every cylinder wall, every main web, showed the fingerprints of a foundry team working under the threat of termination, machining surfaces to tolerances that would pass a military audit. A retired metallurgist once called the ZL-1 block the closest thing to a classified asset General Motors ever built. He was not exaggerating. The dyno sheets and lab results were not just proof of power, they were the final sign-off on a weapon ready for deployment. The only question left was how to smuggle it past the suits and into the hands of true believers. COPO, Central Office Production Order, was a loophole buried in Chevrolet's bureaucracy, meant for fleet managers who needed 100 identical sedans or a batch of trucks with oddball gear. On the surface, it was a tool for taxi companies, police departments, and funeral homes to get what the catalog didn't offer. But in the right hands, COPO became a code, an inside joke among those who knew how to ask for the impossible. It was the key to ordering hardware that corporate policy would never approve, a way to slip forbidden speed past the front office. The process started with a coded request. You couldn't just walk into a dealership and ask for a race engine. Instead, you drafted paperwork that looked like any other fleet order, routed to a central office clerk who understood the language of misdirection. Her desk was stacked with forms, each tagged for fleet use, each hiding something beneath the surface. She never asked why a funeral home needed heavy-duty cooling or why a police order called for a 427 cubic inch V8. She just ran the numbers, stamped the forms, and sent them into the production chain. COPO coding was a sleight of hand. The regular catalog spoke in RPOs, regular production options, like power steering or custom paint. COPO used numbers that didn't appear in any brochure. COPO 956E, for example, signaled the assembly line to install the ZL-1, an all-aluminum 427 cubic inch engine built for racing, with a price tag that belonged in a classified budget. On paper, it was just another fleet order. In reality, it was a declaration of intent. The clerk's initials in the margin were the only clue that something unusual was moving through the system. She was the silent partner, making sure the order slipped past every checkpoint. Without her, the ZL-1 would have stayed a rumor. Thanks to COPO and a few trusted hands, it became legend. Paper trails are the only thing more elusive than the ZL-1 itself. Anyone can bolt together a counterfeit, but only a handful of men have ever held the real documentation, proof that a command unit slipped past the corporate blockades. Here is your classified checklist, 3 documents, each stamped by the chain of command, each one a fragment of the forbidden order. First, the original Central Office Production Order form. This is not a glossy sales brochure. This is a coded dispatch routed through Central Office requesting hardware that never existed in the official catalog. The form lists a fleet order, but buried in its options you will find the ZL-1 engine code. No mention of racing, no explicit call-out of ordnance-grade aluminum. Just numbers, initials, and a discreet signature from a clerk who knew when to look the other way. Without this, you are chasing a ghost. Second, the factory build sheet. This is the war diary of the car, the vehicle identification number, engine code, option bundles, and the all-important Central Office Production Order 9560 designation. If you do not see that code, walk away. The build sheet is the only place where the ZL-1 true identity is spelled out in black ink. It is a document that survived the purge, often hidden under carpet or behind trim, waiting for a future operator to uncover its secrets. Most imposters cannot produce a build sheet. The real ones are as rare as decrypted enemy transmissions. Third, the punch tag. This is the dog tag of the command unit, riveted to the firewall or cowl, stamped with a sequence that matches the build sheet and the central office production order form. It is the last line of defense against forgery. If the numbers do not align, you are looking at a civilian masquerading as a weapon of war. Gaps in this chain are fatal. Many ZL-1s were stripped for parts, rebodied, or lost to history. Only those with all three forms of evidence, central office production order, build sheet, and matching punch tag, can be certified as true survivors. Dealers became the final custodians, sometimes hiding paperwork in vaults, sometimes losing it to time. Today, these documents are worth more than gold. They do not just prove existence, they establish provenance, command authority, and set the market for what a ZL-1 is truly worth. In the world of black budget hardware, the paper is the passport. Without it, you are just telling stories. 2 VINs, 2 sets of matching documents. That's the entire chain of custody for the ZL-1 command unit program. No legend, no hearsay, just hard evidence that would pass a military audit. Auction specialists don't gamble on stories. They demand a provenance trifecta: original COPO order, factory build sheet, and the punch tag still riveted to the firewall, numbers aligned like a launch code. Both surviving command units carry this full dossier. Their paperwork is not a photocopy or a faded dealer invoice, it's the original intelligence stamped and signed by the chain of command. Every number, every signature, every code is a locked coordinate in the historical grid. This is not just authentication, it's confirmation that these two units slipped through the blockade, survived the culling, and now stand as irrefutable artifacts. In the black budget world of American muscle, this is the gold standard, proof that cannot be forged, erased, or denied. $3 million. That's the number stamped on the latest certified appraisal, a figure that detonates any lingering doubt about what the ZL-1 command unit truly represents. Auction houses don't gamble with fairy tales, only with artifacts that have survived the culling, that carry provenance like a classified launch code. Rarity alone can't explain it. Other Corvettes are rare, but none command this kind of black budget funding. This is the market's verdict on a weaponized asset, a machine engineered in defiance of every corporate kill order. When a ZL-1 crosses the block, the bidding isn't just for a car, it's for a piece of American industrial insurgency, authenticated by a chain of custody tighter than a missile silo. The archivist's declassification stamp is the final act. This is no longer a rumor or a ghost story. $3 million is the price of treason, paid in full. That's not just vindication, that's history, signed and delivered. Today, the ZL-1's ballistic legacy detonates in boardrooms still terrified of internal mutiny. Every auction that demands black budget funding is a classified victory for American engineering defiance, proof that ordnance-grade innovation always outflanks executive caution. This machine isn't just an artifact, it's a live signal flare for anyone who still believes tactical supremacy belongs to the bold, not the obedient. Drop your clearance level in the comments, if you dare.